Hello, everyone. Welcome to Corporate Chronicles Between Suits and Cares. I am your host, Emma. I felt like I needed to applaud myself because I sat in front of this red recording button for like 10 minutes without hitting record, trying to gather the courage to record this first episode. And I kid you not, guys, I am totally terrified. But at the same time, I am very excited to be doing this. I am doing this afraid. I want, first of all, to thank you for being here, to thank everybody who has been on Beyond the Covers book club and book show, who has come to Corporate Chronicles with me. This is a journey, and I am going to share why I decided to do this podcast and what I envision for this space. As to where we are going, I think we need to buckle up because we are heading full speed, and I feel we are heading to a beautiful space. Now, I feel like in the last few years, I have had some things to say. And of course, a little voice in my head is asking me, who the hell do you think you are? Who are you to do these? But I have decided to show up. And it's okay to have fear. What I'm telling my fear is, it's okay, honey, you come, but I'm going to take the driver's seat. So I have decided to show up and to show up for the guys in the corporate space, to show up for the people who grind on a daily, to show up for the people who are in the trenches, who are in the corporate ghetto because corporate can be something, to the taxpayers who are driving, this economy, to those people who are trying to do one thing after another just to try and, maybe make ends meet or fulfill their purpose. Those who, have notes and anxieties on Sunday evenings before Monday morning. I am here for you. I am here because we are all trying to honor the spaces that we are in with our best efforts. So the journey of Corporate Chronicles, I feel like it has been a very long journey. Um, I am a creative of some sort. I started doing a blog way in 2012, but I think it was private. Well, it was out there, but I did not shout about it. But I wrote very, very many things about life, things about the workspace. I think I have always felt something about the workspace because being thrust in there as a little girl and not knowing how to navigate that space is something that to date I don't know how. I can't even try to imagine the people who are getting in there today without having prior knowledge. And on this blog, I remember two articles that stood out. One was called I Served the Tea, and I Served the Tea was an article based on a personal experience where, in a very high level meeting, I was asked to serve tea. And I was asked to serve tea because I was a young girl. You can imagine what that made me feel. But thank God I was in a space on Women on Boards Network, and I want to thank the Women on Boards Network for the work they are doing. I joined that space when I was a very young girl. I had no idea of what happens in corporate, but I was there because I think I was trying to find my purpose or something. And I would hear Catherine say that when they ask you to serve tea, ask them to come over and ask them, how do you like your tea served? I actually did not think that that is something that happens until it happened to me. And I was terrified because there's no way I'd have said no. And then there's another article that stood out, and it was picked by a New York newspaper that said, "Dear Kenyan working moms." And at that time, I was a young mom in the corporate world, and I took a picture of me breastfeeding my baby and doing some work. That article just made me feel like there are people who are going through stuff because, I mean, being picked by New York, and the paper in New York, and also having a lot of feedback about the working mom, it made me feel like, okay, so the conversations that people need to have. That was a long time ago. And I thought, okay, so is it time we start that conversation? And then I had a show that was called Beyond the Covers Book Show that was being produced by Homeboys. Thank you very much, Mike Rabah, for being so gracious. We produced this show. I think we did not do much, but at least we did something. It was a show where people would discuss the books, because I'm a reader, that would discuss the book. People would discuss the books that they have read, or books that they have, or they have authored, or books that have done something for them. And I thank the guests who are always, there when I call them and tell them, hey, let's have a discussion on this and that. And then again in 2020, during the lockdown period, on my LinkedIn space, I wrote little articles. And those little articles were about office stories on a segment, by the way, that I called Corporate Chronicles. I actually did not even think about a podcast then, but it was just little funny office stories, and I mean little things about offices and memes. And I would get people saying, this happened to me, this happened to that. So I was like, okay, so this is a conversation people needed to have. And I tried to take that conversation to a space that I put my whole heart in when we founded Women in Public Service. Women in Public Service was founded from a space of tears, tears from the corporate world, tears from the workspace. And we came together as six young women, and we thought, we felt like this is where we need, on our WhatsApp groups, we talked about what is happening in the workspace, how we can help that young girl, what we need to do. We had a sisterhood, although right now it's on hold because we need to put up structures. But I felt like the Corporate Chronicles would also be part of the Women in Public Service, because these are conversations that need to be heard. And so I kept toying around. I write a lot. And I kept going around and saying, will I continue writing the blogs, or what do I do? Because like there are things that need to be said. And I am a firm believer that if you have something to say, amplify your voice. And then I thought, okay, maybe we can do a podcast, or maybe I can do a podcast. There are very many things that we do not know, and things that we need to educate ourselves about. And I think that is how Corporate Chronicles was born. I have been toying with this idea from 2020, when I was writing those stories, but I didn't know, how do I start? What do I do? Is it an idea whose time has come? And so we are here. Anyway, we're here. And this was also pushed by a what? This was also pushed by an episode that happened again in the corporate space, and I felt like this is it. This is it. So before I started doing this in the many little groups and through my friends, I did a questionnaire, and it was about what discussions, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the absolute in between, would you want us to figure out together when it comes to corporate space. And I got over 1,000 responses. 1,000 responses. In fact, at some point, I was like, gosh, why did I even start this? Will I be able to do this? But slowly by slowly, I think we will unpack. We will unpack from the answers that I got, because some are very, very shocking. Some are good, some are funny. And I have taken it upon myself to bring up these conversations. So each week, we will share uncensored truths. We will share conversations with thought leaders, with visionaries, with industry captains, with entrepreneurs. And we're going to talk about the modern day mistakes. You know, the conversations that you pay so much to go and listen to in conferences. I want to try as much as possible to bring them on Corporate Chronicles. And maybe you can give suggestions of people you'd want us to have a discussion with, and more topics that you would want us to discuss. And what is your role as my listener? Your role is to show up, and to show up speaking your truth. Show up speaking your truth. And what I envision for this space really is us figuring things out together, of who we are, of standing in our truth, of giving our work the best of who we are, of giving ourselves the best of who we are. And I mean, not giving two shits about what people think about us, but owning who you are as a person. That is my vision for this space. I don't have all the answers. My guests will not have all the answers, but my hope is that you can learn from us and we can learn from you. My hope as well is that this podcast inspires you and makes you flourish after every conversation. This is your place to let down your guard, to open your heart, and to remember that, being human is a crazy, wild ride. And I mean, being human, in especially in the corporate space, you don't have to do it alone. Let us build this space to be our space. I mean, right now, when you look at the way things are going or how things are, mental health as well is something that we need to talk about. We need to talk about mental health according to the World Health Organization. Everyone, there's one person in every four who has mental health issues. We want to unpack that here, the causes, what we can do. And I think also Frank Jenga mentioned something to do with that if we are not careful, that is the next pandemic. We must be able to equip ourselves with this information. And I am speaking so passionately about mental health because I have been, I don't say a patient, but I have been through that. I know what living with anxiety means. I totally understand. I know what having toxic bosses means. And, even when I was thinking about this podcast or the journey before this podcast, the way when you put out something to the universe just shows you ways that tell you that I need to do this. And I remember one young girl coming to my office and us having a discussion. And, I think I had taught her at some point. And in my classes, I always have a session that we call Life 101. We're going to talk about anything life, anything life. I got this from one of the teachers who continued to play a very big role in my life as a mentor, Dr. Monya. I got this from her when I was quite young, I think in campus. And she always taught us about life. And I thought this is how I'm going to pay it for, because during her Life 101 sessions, there are so many things I learned. And whatever I learn in the conferences, in what I read, in what I see, we discuss them in class. And so this young girl came to class, and came to my office, and she had it with the environment in which she was in. You could see the way she burst out in tears because of what she was feeling, because of the kind of environment she was in. And when we try to unpack that, I'm not a therapist, by the way, but I have tried to equip myself with tools that help me unpack these things. And when I tried to, when we tried to unpack what she was feeling, I think it was just a feeling of being overwhelmed. Today she's okay. It's just a feeling of being overwhelmed. So I want us to have this space as our little heaven to where we're gonna talk about everything. If you have any questions, let us try to answer them here. If you have anything to say, I will give you the platform. Let this be our space. And I am excited to, go this journey with you. Do I know everything? No, I do not. I absolutely do not know everything. But I want this to be a platform where we're going to learn from each other. and where we're going to relate with each other. And it doesn't have to be like office life. Even in your entrepreneurship journey, you're still dealing with people, you're still dealing with processes. I want us to have those discussions. I envision a space where we will grow together, where we will laugh, we will cry, and we will figure things out together. And I am excited. I am excited to be here. And I want to welcome you on this journey of Corporate Chronicles because this is my labor of love. So I hope you are. I hope you're excited as I am. And let's see how it goes. So thank you for listening to episode 1 of this podcast. And let's see you next week on where you get your podcasts on Spotify, on Google Pods, on AfriPods, on your Apple Pods. Please also follow us on our social media pages. Let's grow a community. Let's grow a community. We're going to be advocates of what we want or what we envision to have, the spaces that we envision to have. So we see you next time. This is Corporate Chronicles between suits and cares. See you.